We had a few topics we wanted to cover. The first among them was this idea. I haven't read James Mart's opinion piece that he wrote, I guess, on exchange BP's voting and the merits of that.
Pull it up, Jamie.
I'm not sure what other alternatives the exchanges have. And so
don't vote. That's what Upbit does. Upbit has 135 million EOS in their cold wallet. They don't vote with it.
they don't vote.
Right.
Also, they are not allowed to vote with users tokens.
It's not clear, but they definitely, I mean, so here's the question. Why would it be politically, like, what's the reasoning? Why would the government have anything against it? What's the problem? Maybe because it's not ethical.
All right. Is that an actual law, Chris?
It's not that it's a law. My understanding is that they want to have a good relationship with the government and the regulators so they can have a thriving business. And because crypto is such a questionable emerging thing as it is, that they want to not do things that are questionably not ethical. So is it questionably unethical to vote on behalf of customers' tokens who've never actually opted in to them doing so? And not even just voting, becoming a block producer and then voting for yourself to collect inflation from the network and trading those tokens with other exchanges that do the exact same thing. I mean, the ethical questions kind of multiply when you start stacking them on top of each other.
Well, I think anytime the exchange performs an action that doesn't make them solvent anymore in that moment should have some sort of asterisk, or the user should have to opt in, or that some sort of restriction on that. But on another layer as well, the behavior of, again, tracking what you owe to someone based on a centralized database kind of thing, and something that can mount GOX is reckless already. But like, what stops Binance or whatever exchange from mount GOXing? And like, how the hell do we move away from this practice? Yeah, well, like bullish, or moving towards decentralized exchanges. So
yeah, so John, I think that the thing is the system has to give more yield to the token holders to prevent these type of things from happening.
But it's still a centralized exchange. Like,
yeah, I think
so is bullish.
Yeah, Randall, your point is that there needs to be a greater incentive for token holders to not want to store their tokens on an exchange. But the Mount Goxing, the thing is crypto is so, I mean, we have like amnesia of the past. Most people in crypto weren't around during Mount Gox. And the lesson for Mount Gox is not your keys, not your tokens. So like self-custody. But there hasn't been a big enough recent Mount Gox. Like there was Quadriga CX in Canada, and that guy, passed away in India with the keys to the 100 and whatever million he had, right? Like people just, I don't know. It's like you kind of get what you deserve, unfortunately. And EOS kind of, unfortunately, in my view, is we're kind of getting what we deserve. Like this network has not been thriving. And my view is that a lot of that is to do with the vampiric nature of the backbone, which are the BPs who are collecting the inflation, and the fact that great BPs have not been rewarded. And Aaron's here, like he's had to, I mean, you could speak for yourself, but I'm sure it's been super difficult for you to try to maintain funding and keep your BP in a paid position. And you see guys like EOS Costa Rica keeps coming up. Those guys do so much in the ecosystem, and they aren't in a paid spot right now. The EOS, the microloan, right? They were using part of their BP reward. Now this is a questionable one, but they were using that reward to help fund legal bills for people who were arrested in Venezuela using EOS as a currency. Like that's still, to me, using network inflation to help promote this ecosystem. So it's like, I don't know, like the people who argue that everything's okay and this is fine the way it is, I don't understand their view that like, it's just like, it's almost like you don't want to hear that it's not good because you've got so much in EOS. It's like, that's FUD. That's not going to pump my price. Just rah. Like you got to like be a little bit more objective about what's good and bad. And maybe it hurts a bit to change the status quo and how DPoS is, but the long-term gain is hopefully will outweigh the short-term pain.
I mean, to kind of jump back to where you mentioned gray mass, it's like I joined Eden because BP, like we weren't well enough positioned as a BP to do the things we think need to be done, add that value you're talking about. I think that my attention specifically has started to align more with block producers just produce blocks now that new methods are coming online to create value. And I mean, along that same line of thinking, maybe the solution is that once all of these systems that come online, whether it be Mellow ENF grants or any other method that comes up is just to start reducing BP pay so that it's not attractive to exchanges. Like, let's just give them enough to operate the network and have people to be able to do that, and then have the value creation activities coming from somewhere else that's not abusable in quotes, because I don't even know if it's abuse at this point. Even back in the days when I was in Steam, and Steam, for reference, was not companies as block producers, it was people. So like I, as Jesta at that time, I was a BP, just me as an individual. It was no entities. Well, there were a few, but anyways. But even back then, there was a large push to, hey, BPs should just be BPs. Like we shouldn't muddy the water because it's really hard to justify the value add that a BP brings. And I think originally I was against that throughout my time in Steam because I was a BP, because I was adding value. I was building wallets and tools and trying to bring new social media interfaces to Steam. And I was against that, but I think over the years now, maybe I'm starting to see that it's possible to go that route. It's not that exchange BPs are a problem. It's that we expect more of BPs than realistically we should. We just didn't have an alternative.
Great point.
Personally, I think it's like these aren't mutually exclusive. Like, it's not like it's either BPs only do infrastructure or they only do everything. Like, why can't, like, I think having the ENF is absolutely key. And there's no argument for me that they shouldn't exist and that entity shouldn't exist. But that doesn't mean we still can't have BPs that are part of the community and give back.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't mean we can't have.
So Chris, I think what would happen is they will have the choice, right? The choice of doing extra, but we have to have like a fundamental agreement that BPs just produces blocks, and this is how much we are going to give them for that, right? And then if you want to do more, kudos to you.
Yeah, and then you go through Eden and you go through these other things if you want to do more.
Or the BPs are just held accountable for spending their reward from being a BP properly. So that can be done if there were a body, a committee that was formed almost like the OIG in Wax, and that body kept tabs and formed relationships with participating BPs. And if those BPs are willing to disclose enough of their financial information to demonstrate that, hey, look, here's what we got and here's how we spent it. We've got labor, we've got infrastructure, and here's a project that we're investing in. Here's some marketing we did. If that came, okay, fine, great. To me, that's like, that would be in my perfect world would be all the VPs disclosing what they did and doing good things with those funds. But right now they could never do that because they take the reward and they buy votes with it.
The OIG, the only reason the OIG works is because there is a massive stakeholder backing that. The Wax team has a huge amount of tokens and created the OIG to kind of act as a body to help them not directly influence governance, but have a body of voting power that instilled their values. So we could potentially do that within EOS. I mean, the Wax team has a significant amount of tokens. It is more than anybody on EOS. I think the Wax team has more than 10%. Like, I'm confident in that. In EOS, the EOS ecosystem, nobody has more than 10%, basically. If I am a block producer and I'm also a value creator, if the value creation, if that can be funded elsewhere, then I, as a BP, would be willing to take a reduction in BP pay to the point as to where it covers my operational costs and staff and that kind of things. But I don't need to depend on that to build things like Anchor. Telos has a model that kind of does this. The amount of BP pay goes up and down depending on the price of Telos, to try to give each BP a set amount of funding per month. That's not super great for teams like mine who depend on BP rewards to create value, but it makes, I think that's one of the reasons why you don't see the same type of exchanges engaging in that way, is because it's a designated amount.
Yeah, Telos did a few things that since I've become a part of the Telos Foundation, I've read their TBNOA, which is their Telos block producer operating agreement, I think. So they have the top 21 all get the same pay. So it doesn't go up as you go up the ranks. So that reduces the incentive to want to pay for votes, to move yourself up to get more pay. The 30 standby producers also all get the same. So it's 21 get the same, then 30 below that get half of that amount, but it's all the same. So again, no incentive to move yourself up. The 21st block producer is rotated out randomly. I believe it's random with the 30 below. So all standby producers get tested. So that removes the sock puppets who don't have any infrastructure. So that's better. And then, the other thing they do, it's interesting, is they ensure that you vote for 30 BPs. And so you lose it's inversely weighted. So if you don't vote for the full 30, you lose the power of your vote. So it encourages a broad distribution of votes as well.
I think Wax is similar in the pay structure, but it has the completely different thing living on top of it. The OIG.
Cool. I'm going to suggest we move on to another topic now, unless anyone else has anything they want to add to that before we do.
Thanks, James, for your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Way to go, James. Causing fights. No, just kidding.